On NewsTalk Saga 360. It is Wednesday, October the 1st. So very glad you could join us. BJ Dichter joining us. He's always right on the ball when it comes to stuff happening on the border between the United States and Canada. You may not have heard of it, but apparently there was a closure at the border for a time there Monday night, that the bridges were jammed. BJ himself was stuck on it for, 12 hours? Benjamin, is that right?
Well, it was longer than 12 hours, but I was sitting on the bridge for 12 hours total. It took maybe 16 hours for me to get through the border. But yeah, it was quite bad. And
the excuse given was?
Well, it's interesting. I got to give a little bit of context to this because it's a lot more complicated than what they're trying to lead on. So first is, there was a piece put out by CHCH News just an hour ago saying that the Southern Ontario border issue is, quote, partially resolved after system outage caused delays. Firstly, how is a computer system partially resolved? They are binary. They are on or off. Right. That means they're doing things manually. It's not resolved right now. And I know people who are still in line, and it's still quite slow getting across the border. So it started on Monday night between 8 and 9 p.m. So we're now passing, 36 hours to get this computer system rebooted. And during that period, the border, Mark, it was closed. It was completely shut down to all commercial traffic during that period. Trucks were backed up on two borders that I saw. I was at Queenston-Lewiston. I saw the line. It was backed up for miles. I've never seen something like this before, except for during the CBSA strike a few years ago. So I went over to the Fort Erie border and thought, okay, well, maybe there's a problem here. And there seemed to be less traffic, according to the app that I use, the Niagara Border Crossing app. And I went to the Fort Erie border, and again, there was another very long lineup to get in. And it was funny, where I was positioned, where I slept on the bridge, I actually could see the border crossing, just the design of Fort Erie. You're sitting on top of the bridge and you're looking down at the border as you snake through a bunch of roads to get to it. And I could see all of these lines of trucks were just stopped there with the engines shut off and everybody's gone to sleep. There was one border agent working the entire border, and he seemed to be just picking and choosing a line periodically and just sending trucks through without even clearing them, because he couldn't clear them because their computer system was down. Oh. And that was the entire night until, 9:30 in the morning. It looked like Frank Stronach might have called Mark Carney directly and said, "What's happening with your border?" And all of a sudden, there were people scrambling. Border control agents scrambling around trying to pretend like they're doing some work, but they couldn't do anything because the entire system was locked down. I've never seen anything like this before.
And you've also seen a possible connection with a computer hacker, a guy in Windsor. Is that right?
Well, no, there's a number of questions that the media never asks, which is what caused their system to go down?
Sure.
How long does it take to reboot a computer network? An hour, 2 hours? Unless it's a hack or an ongoing hack that every time they reboot, they get hacked again, or they got locked out of their own system. And which company is contracted to administer the border's computer system? But nobody asks these questions. For some reason, the media is very, very quiet on this issue. And that same day, and getting to your point, there was according to, I think this was CTV, a 30-year-old Windsor resident named Hengwei Zong, notice they didn't say citizen, was arrested on multiple counts of trafficking firearms into Canada on the same day. 48 firearms, 175 magazines, including prohibited magazines, those big round drum magazines. So somebody was looking for some very serious firepower, and 17,000 rounds of ammunition were trying to be smuggled in the very same day that the network was maybe hacked and shut down.
Wow.
What happened?
So you're following the breadcrumbs here and saying that maybe there was a hack of the computer system in order to facilitate the smuggling of these firearms. Is that the connection here?
I don't know. I mean, I don't want to over-correlate things, but I like to ask questions, and it seems to be there's a certain country around the world that is very technologically savvy with hacking that's not happy with U.S. trade practices and tariffs right now.
Uh-huh. I got it.
Right?
Yeah. Okay. We can talk about that, and we can also talk about Mario Zelaya posted this, and we're going to be chatting with Mario. I've got to get your take on it. He pointed out that there was the Minister of External Affairs for India who made a statement recently saying, look, I warned you people in Canada, stop allowing criminals into your country from the Punjab who are using these fake documents to get in. Lo and behold, they're involved in criminal activity back home in India, then they're going to continue their criminal activity in Canada. Let's listen a little bit.
Number of gangland people, number of people with organized crime links from Punjab have been made welcome in Canada. We have been telling Canada, saying, look, these are wanted criminals from India. You have given them visas. They have come, many of them, in false documentation. And yet you allow them to live there. If you decide to import for political purposes people with very dubious, actually very negative background.
He says that if you, for political purposes, allow these people into the country, then there's going to be issues. Well, why would Canada deliberately import criminals from the Punjab? I'm not saying that they're not. I'm pretty sure they are doing it. But, I mean, what's the agenda here by the Liberals?
Well, two things. Firstly, he missed when did India warn Canada? And I happen to know India warned Canada about this in 2019. So this is not a new issue. And guess what, Mark? Here's your human trafficking. It's human labor trafficking. There's a reason the number of refugee claims from India went from a steady number of about 200 per year to now, what's it at, 8,000? And it may have something to do with Navdeep Bains deciding to take time off to retire and go spend time with his family, and Ahmed Hussein being removed as immigration minister. It might have something to do with minister permits and a little corruption going on behind the scenes where they're exploiting and trafficking people into the country.
So somebody was making money on the political side. Somebody linked to the Liberal government was profiting.
Some people, some organizations, some unions, yes. Yes, this is this is the top level of government. It's been going on since Trudeau got into office. There's many people who've been doing the paperwork behind this, the research on it. This has been going on for some time. And by the way, every member of parliament knows and has known for years, including the Conservative Party.
And yet, it seems to be, the Conservatives haven't been in government in a position to stop it. Now, they could certainly raise the issue, but you're saying that they have not been doing so. Is that a political thing as well? They don't want to upset that particular voting base?
My criticism of them, always on the inside, they get upset with this, and I say this with love, is because they're cowards. They're afraid of the media. Oh, if we bring it up, the media will attack you. And I would say, okay, good. Let the media attack you. Who cares? But that's why they won't bring it up.
Well, somebody needs to bring it up. I mean, besides Mario Zelaya and you. I mean, how did this happen? And my guess is it's probably continuing to happen. I haven't heard of a crackdown, and I don't know of any RCMP investigation into once and former ranking Liberal ministers who allowed this to happen. I mean, I wish we had a national police force in this country that actually did its job, but they seem to think that Liberals are untouchable, and so they don't investigate the criminal activity by these people. But wow, what a disaster this has turned out to be. Go ahead.
I think the problem is, as you know, I have family in policing. On the RCMP side, there's a lack of resource and funding. And on police in general, it's the politicization of police forces. Remember when Commissioner, what was her name? Lackey? Like, what a perfect name for her. When Commissioner Lackey was put in to be head of the RCMP. Yeah, exactly. That was to stifle any investigations like this. And by the way, this is not just happening in Canada. This is happening all over the world. It's happening in South America. It's happening across Europe. This is the global migrant crisis. It is money laundering and human trafficking at scale, where politicians, and I don't mean necessarily elected politicians, but the politicians behind the scenes and brokers and fixers and lobby groups are profiting billions of dollars around the world.
And Canada is a big part of that. You know, the idea that we used to be a fairly law-abiding country, completely now out the window. Crime exploding on the streets of Toronto, and these people. I think that, but you know what? You make an excellent point. I've made the point that I think the Liberals have been whipping up crime because they use that for political means. They actually think that they can consolidate their own power by whipping up as much chaos as humanly possible and target the people they hate, which is legal firearms owners. So all this criminal activity happening, they are responsible for making more of it happen. And what are they doing? They're saying, well, we're going to target those firearms owners over there because they're the bad people. We're going to take their guns. Meantime, you have this guy here caught yesterday, thankfully, with how many thousands of rounds of ammunition? 17,000? I mean...
17,000 rounds, yeah.
Is this guy going to get a slap on the wrist? And from what I hear, he may not even be a Canadian citizen.
Well, they explicitly describe him as a resident. But you know what's interesting? You bring up, the philosophy behind what's happening in the political left around the world. And, why did they always empower, and we discussed this last time, why they always empower the criminals and they prosecute, the educated academic class, the people who contribute, the working class. Isn't that what Mao did? Isn't that what Lenin did? Isn't that how they consolidated their power? They weakened the intelligent people. They weakened the people who had, financial means that contributed to society, and they empowered the criminals and turned them basically into militias. So it's a very similar insidious strategy that we see from a philosophical perspective, and I think it's very dangerous and it's got to stop. That's why I think P. Hegseth's speech the other day was so vital, because it shows a pivot in philosophy with amongst the Americans, and hopefully that will spill over to Canada at some point.
Well, one certainly hopes that is the case, but I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon in Canada. I just don't see it, unfortunately, because of the attitude of the people in charge. And I've got to run this past you as well while we have a few minutes left, BJ. The word that, at least according to the Globe and Mail, that Mark Carney now is looking at ditching supply management, and that he may be looking to give in to the United States demand of allowing more American dairy into Canada. So this is another elbows down move. What do you make of that? I think it's a good. I mean, overall, I welcome it because it's consumers in Canada that get gouged because of this supply management system. But those guys are politically very powerful in that lobby, and they can destroy a politician. I think that's pretty much what they did to Max Bernier out in Quebec. I tell you, those dairy farmers have a lot of clout and a lot of pull. But I don't remember Mark Carney saying during the election campaign, yeah, I think we're going to ditch or look at possibly ditching supply management in order to cut a deal with the Americans on trade. I don't remember that happening. Do you?
No, and, I think this is inevitable. From my perspective, and, Canadians sometimes get upset at me for this. Look, the Americans control, 80% of our economy, 70%, 75%, something like that.
76%, I believe.
Okay, so, yeah, so we're to be a sovereign nation, unfortunately, we are dependent upon the United States no matter what. What's always infuriated me about our political class is they grandstand, oh, we're going to show the Americans. Like, you don't have leverage. You don't have leverage. You know what Trump wants? Trump wants you to come and say, okay, let's do a deal. Let's do a deal that makes everybody happy. That's what Trump wants. That's what we should want on the other side. But instead of this nonsense of elbows up, and by the way, Pierre Poilievre did the same thing. So it's pathetic on all sides. Not understanding basic negotiation, trade relationships, or just a general business relationship of who is in the dominant role. And unfortunately, they are in the dominant role, but they're good to us. So I don't know why we would sour that relationship, but they did. And I think what it further proves, whether we like it or not, Canada has one leader right now, and his name is Donald Trump, because he's the only one who understands leverage. And that's it. So it's inevitable. We will have to.
BJ, thank you so much for coming on the show. How do people access your content online?
Go to Substack, bjdichter.substack.com, or grab my book at honkingforfreedom.com, or follow me all over the socials. Type my name in YouTube, everywhere you'll find me. Honking
for Freedom, the definitive story of the convoy, the trucker convoy, Freedom Convoy. Thank you, BJ. Great chatting with you.
All right, brother. Have a good day.
All right, my friends, let's take a minute now for a brief timeout. Back with more on NewsTalk Saga 960 and the Marc Patrone Show after that.
From my cold, dead hand.